Hi, and welcome to the video lecture on Chapter 4, which is a chapter on listening. I want to invite you to listen up because listening is a key element of the communication process. And, that's kind of a stupid statement because we all know it, right? Despite how much we know about listening, there's so much more that we don't know about it. And that's what we're going to talk about. So, I want to talk about the parts of the listening process. You've read chapter 4, so you know what this looks like. You know why we should listen. But a lot of times we confuse listening with hearing. And so I want you to really recognize that hearing is a biophysiological process. It is the process by which we physiologically attend to sound waves using our ears. So this is actually the process by which sound waves register, not where we make meaning, but where we recognize that there is sound. Attending is where we move beyond the physical and it becomes a mental process. So attending means we give attention to, where we say, I recognize that there are sound waves coming into my ear. Let me pay attention and try to decode those. That's attending, which goes really, really closely with understanding, which is where we not only attend to it, but attempt to really decode, understand, interpret, and make meaning from those sound waves. If somebody says, hey, to me, understanding, hey, means that I would say back, hey, how are you, right? It means rather, that I've made meaning from it. There's not really any complex way of explaining this. And then remembering. Remembering is a key part of the listening process. If you're listening effectively, you should be able to remember what was said. If you're really listening in this course, my hope is that you'll remember this 5 years from now. If you're listening to these online lectures, my hope is that you'll remember the content when you're giving your speech and that it will help you. But we know that listening is a complex process and that there are many, many barriers to effective listening. Some of that involves faking attention, which you probably do in class. Hopefully you don't do in here, but maybe when you're sitting in a large lecture, you might fake attention, but you might really be scrolling on Facebook on your computer. That's a barrier to effective listening. It's a barrier when we listen only for facts. So if you're, again, in a large lecture, you're not listening to the teacher's examples, rather you're just listening for him to give you the main points so you can mark them down in your notebook. That's a barrier to effective listening. Avoiding difficult material, if you're sitting in a college math class and they're explaining complex mathematic equations and you kind of tune out because you just don't understand, so why even try? You didn't understand step A, why would you understand step B? That's a barrier to effective listening. Avoiding the uninteresting, let's not pretend that we listen to a lot of uninteresting stuff. I won't pretend that some of these lectures are probably uninteresting to you. You probably tune in and out. You might be on your phone. You might be doing your hair. You might be in the shower while you're listening to this. I don't know. Hopefully you're still focused and not avoiding things just because they become uninteresting to you. And then criticizing the speaker can become a weakness. Now, you should critique a speaker's argument. Always, always, always critique their argument. But don't ever fall prey to just criticizing the speaker point blank. You may hate hearing my voice. I recognize it's not smooth and sexy. It's not awesome to listen to. But don't let that be a barrier to your listening to the content here. So how can you overcome? Well, you can overcome by being deliberate. Develop listening objectives for each situation. If you go to a large lecture, set goals for yourself. Say, you know what? I want to learn at least, or walk away with learning at least 4 things today. Set a goal. That may work for you. It may not. Develop skills of concentration. Try to focus on doing one task at a time instead of multitasking. We live in a multitasking age, and so it's easy to scroll on your phone, to scroll on Facebook on your computer, to be talking to your mom, to be talking to your partner, to be eating a bowl of Cheetos, but try to focus on one thing. Develop skills of concentration. And listen for the bigger idea, not just for the facts. If your professor says A, B, and C, try to connect those 3. Identify and evaluate support material for the major ideas. So see what types of evidence are being used and critique and analyze that evidence. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you know anything about it? Always try to mentally summarize your ideas. This is why we give previews, reviews, and transitions in speeches as a speaker, because we want to help our audience kind of summarize the main ideas. Listen for useful information. And this is not just main points. This is information that you can use to better understand. Again, I always use my weight loss example, but that might help you understand my orientation, why I believe, the things that I believe. And then don't be distracted by language or delivery. This is especially true when somebody's from a different culture than yours. Don't be distracted by their language curve or their accent or the ways that their maybe language doesn't measure up to yours in your eyes. Don't focus on that. Focus on the content. And then always focus on giving feedback. Feedback is probably the best way to show that you're paying attention and that you're listening. Feedback can be verbal or nonverbal. If you're in a conversation with somebody else, giving feedback like, hey, what do you mean by that? Because I'm not sure I understand, is a really good indicator that you're listening. If you're in a large lecture, it's probably not good to do that unless you raise your hand, but you might just nod your head. Shows that you're understanding. That's nonverbal feedback, and it shows the communicator, the speaker rather, that you are engaged and that you're listening. So listening is not complex in and of itself, but kind of the theoretical undergirdings of it can be difficult to understand. So please read chapter 4 and think about these things as you move forward into the speech criticism assignment. Think about some of these principles and always try to be a good listener. So again, not super complex, but hopefully super useful. Until next time, see you later.